Okay, okay, okay. Chill out, guys. Wild. Let me see. Oh wow, a lot of people joined pretty fast. Okay, thank you guys. You want to say hi? This is Leo. Say hi, Leo. Say hi. Okay. You don't want, I thought he wanted to say hi. I guess he doesn't. Um, okay, so I don't know if I want to do like a full chart review. You thought I had a penguin? I don't even know a penguin. Um, you guys can see the chart screen, right? Can't always tell. Okay, cool. How should we do this today? I don't know if I want to do this the same way that we normally do it and just do like a basic chart review. Unless you guys want me to do that. I mean, if overwhelmingly you guys want me to do that, then I'll just do that. Um, okay, you guys want me to do it? All right, I'll just do it. Well, I don't know, because it's kind of divided. I mean, alternatively, we can just do questions and I'm so confused. Seems like half of you want me to do it and half of you don't. All right, we'll do it quick. We'll do it quick. All right, okay, here. We'll compromise here. All right. We'll do a quick chart review and then we'll do quality questions after that. And I'm not going to waste time on the silly questions. Okay, we'll do that. That way everyone's happy. Yeah, I know. I'm just gonna, you're right, Tiger. People do ask stupid questions. So I'm just gonna not answer the stupid questions and I will just focus on the good questions. But we'll just do charts because I think half of you want them and half of you don't. So we'll do that. Anyway, all right, let's start with CRNC, which is doing excellent today. Let me get this moved over. So we got in here. It's basically been green ever since, and now it's breaking out again. Those contracts that we picked up on this, and as always, guys, I'm really not going to go over the one thing I'm not going to do on these workshops because it's literally a waste of time is to go over the original thesis. Okay, there's no point in me like rereading what I wrote already. So again, if I'm talking about a stock and the way I'm talking about it sounds interesting to you, go to the thesis library, read the thesis. That's like a really great channel that we added where all the stocks I've talked about in the last year and a half are marked in there. My original thesis is in there. You can read what I thought when we bought the stock. Pretty straightforward. So you can do that with this name too. This is our most recent name. If you're a new member and you're joining in the past week, you probably missed this alert. It came out, I think, literally 1 week ago. Yeah, last Friday. And it's obviously cooking now. We're up a little over 130% on those $10 calls for August. This name's gapping up in this 13 area. This is a big area that we're pushing into here. On Sirius, as you can see, this is where we were at in the previous range. So once this thing gets above 13, we're going to start looking at this 1317 area, this 1350 area, this 1375 area as points of potential resistance. I don't think they'll offer too much resistance because they were very short-lived areas of price, as you can see. But if we can break through this 13's range, um, this thing gets quite explosive, as you can see, very quickly, right? I mean, these are one of those charts where the further you zoom out, you see more and more potential in the range. Once we get into the 13s here, potentially break out, you're talking 16 to 20 pretty quick. And again, there's not a whole lot of price history in those areas, right? Just very, very small blips of price history. So, is this potentially a 30 plus dollar stock? I don't know, but the way this chart is setting up, it looks like it could potentially be, depending on the catalysts that come on the table. So, quite a bit of range here. And again, we're zoomed out now 5 years. I don't know how long thing's been public for quite a long time. You can see back here in peak of 21, 22, this thing was a $100 plus stock, right? It's a $12 stock now. I think quite compelling fundamentally, again, as I wrote in my thesis. But we have this base that we're trying to break out of. We saw this with BlackBerry as well. Okay. For those that remember with BlackBerry when we got in. So with BlackBerry, we were seeing a very similar thing, right? This base that we wanted to break out over 560, 570, and we did. And you can see the parabolic move you went on, right? We got into BlackBerry here, right? Literally perfect timing. We got in what was the alert go out? 6th of May, right here. So I don't know what price exactly it was when the alert went out, but sub 550 the stock was right here. And it's consolidated for a little bit, and now it's absolutely ripped, and it's 9 plus now, right? In a very short period of time. But this was the same, not the same structure, but similar structure we were looking at to what we just looked at with Sorens, where we wanted it to break out of this base. And it did. And now we have this parabolic move that BlackBerry is on, and just kind of a relentless bid, right? You had, one, two, three, four, five, six green candles in a row coming out of this consolidation, taking us from the sixes to the nines. So we're kind of trying to hit these setups where we have, multiple weeks or months, or in some cases years of basing, and um, we're looking to hit these setups because this is where I think a lot of potential is when you can get in early, you have a good story, you have a good fundamental backing in terms of the valuation of the company, and you can ride these things to Valhalla. I mean, this is very similar to the setup we were looking at last year with Viavi, right? When we were looking at those technical setups. I'm not saying this is like Viavi. It has nothing to do with Viavi. It's not a similar business or anything, but technically, it's a similar setup with these massive, massive bases. And that's part of the reason why we're still in Viavi, by the way. I'm just taking a quick peek at Viavi here. It's part of the reason we're still at Viavi, right? Because when you zoom out of Viavi, right? Yeah, we're up. It's a quadruple for us. But when you zoom out like this, it looks like it's breaking a multi-decade base, right? And we're already involved. We have great cost basis. So when you zoom out and look at these stocks on the higher time frames, and sometimes you zoom out 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you can see the bases that we're trying to attack and the moves that we're hoping that those bases produce. And this is one that is, producing or has been producing for us a move for several months now. Now, recently, it's not been strong, but we take a quick flip to the weekly chart. I mean, what's wrong with this, right? Again, your daily charts are going to be noisy, guys. A lot of you are making big decisions off your daily charts. Some of you were asking me yesterday, well, it's a below the 21 EMA. Like, should I be out of Viavi? I mean, I don't know. I mean, depends on your cost basis. If you bought it at 55, you might have to. But for us, when we bought at 13, 14 bucks, of course not. We're not getting out on a 21 EMA forfeit. Of course not. And you look at the weekly chart, perfect structure, right? This thing has held the 9 week EMA all the way up and is still holding the 9 week EMA. So a little bit of relative underperformance rate lately. Who cares? You have to sit through that. If you get spooked by relative underperformance, you're not going to make it through holding anything. So yeah, that's important to keep in mind. Um, Let me get this. Let me pull this up, see what else is moving today. Okay, let's just go through an order of what's moving versus what's down today. Okay, so um, oh wow, Cerence is ripping now. FPS, this one's doing well today. Pretty monster candle actually, plus 11%. On this name, you can see this one's been tricky along this 9 EMA. It's been sort of some fake outs, but this 21 EMA has been pretty confident. Um, Bottom of the bottom of the range for quite some time as we've been going up. So this 21 EMA has been pretty reliable, 9 EMA not so much. Stock's pushing up now again to new highs today. Um, and my contracts on this one are up, should be up quite a bit. Yeah, a little over 200% on the August 35, so that's nice. Um, and, sorry, November 35. Um, yeah, this one's working well. Again, this is one that we can't talk a lot about because yeah, the thesis is out there. You can go read the thesis, but we don't have enough technical price history to really know what's a meaningful move here, where are the major breaks. But it is nice to see this thing continually set new highs. That's basically what we're looking for it to do because it's a new IPO. There's no historical price range we can look back to and say, oh, this thing's setting up to break out of a base. You know, it's just a new IPO. Just not a lot of price history. So there's not a whole lot of technical talking we can do about this one. But I continue to like the thesis. Again, it's a very, very explosive growth name. And so it's done very well for us since our initial alert. All right, Robinhood having a nice day today. Obviously, very, 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 very small position for us because of it, the fact that it's a legacy position. But it is skipping above that 100-day moving average today. Looks like it's destined to go for that 200-day overhead at $100. Weekly structure looks nice as well, improving as it is sort of building a little bit of consolidation here. Monthly, this candle looks great on the monthly. You get a close here above 89. That'll look really terrific for Robinhood for some continued upside. So Robinhood looks good. 5-9, we upsized this yesterday. It's up 6% today. Um, Continues to be a name that I really, really like. Obviously, you guys who pay attention to my weightings have noticed that this name, Leo, what are you doing? Come here. No. You probably noticed that this name is very high weighting in terms of options. It's a little over 6% weighting now, and yeah, it's just a setup that I think is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, you look here at the daily, you have this 200-day moving average, 921 EMA punching through the 200-day. You can see price as it settled above here did a really good job of defending the 200. You can see this very clearly, right? During this consolidation. Now on the weekly, you have a similar thing happening except with the 50 week instead of the 200-day. You see this 50-week moving average. You can see these two red weekly closes defended that 50-week. And then we've had two green candles now above it. Low of the range from this week was also above it. So that's nice to see. You know, these lines have been pretty consistent resistance for this name all the way going back to when the stock was $80, right? You can see this 50-day, this blue line served as resistance all the way down from 80 to $90 all the way down to $13. This thing has been overhead resistance, this 50 week. The stock has been unable, right? Let me zoom in a little more. See, the stock has been unable to retake this 50-week moving average for years now, right? Going on, back to 2024. Now, what are we seeing? We're seeing character change. We're seeing a reclaim of the 50-week moving average after a long time. On the daily, we're seeing a reclaim of the 200-day moving average, right? Same thing. This 200-day moving average, this last time the stock was above it, the stock was 80 to $90, right? And now we've seen it break down. Again, this downtrending 200-day moving average, you can see the stock failed consistently here, all this way down, failed consistently to get above that spot. What's happening now? Well, change of characters. You can see down here, you're seeing that 200-day flip into support now for the first time. I mean, this is just beautiful. So yeah, 5-9 looking absolutely terrific, like super terrific. I've That's why I've upsized it. This is such a big position for me now with 6% and options weighting that, if this stock doubles, which I think it can, I think it can more than double. If this stock goes on a big run, this thing could climb in weighting to the biggest weighting in the portfolio very fast, right? I mean, this could even overtake Viavi because keep in mind, Viavi is only shares now. Um, and so, at 6% options weighting, this thing can move very, very rapidly. So you have to be mindful of that. Options weighted positions can move rapidly in the portfolio. You guys saw what happened with BLDP, right? You guys saw how quickly, in a matter of 2 weeks, BLDP climbed into a top five position. That's pretty crazy because again, it's pure options positions. They're just going to act differently. They're going to act more dynamically than our shares positions, because again, options move faster, right? It's pretty straightforward. So yeah, I love the daily and weekly look on 5/9. Like I absolutely love them. The monthly needs a little bit of work, but you can kind of see again the same trend that we're talking about, where this stock was above 80 to 90 bucks before it was ever above these moving averages. And you can see this 9 month EMA on the way down, right? This purple line. Look, rejection, 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 failures to reclaim. And now we're seeing a reclaim of it. Once this stock gets above 29 bucks, which I think it will in short order, once the stock gets above 29 bucks, then it will start to pop up on the radar of bottom fishing momentum traders, and that's when you'll start to get, I think, real pour in of volume. So right now in the daily and weekly, I think the inflection is there for the people that are attentive enough. I think the story is there for people who are attentive enough. So I'm really excited about this one. And obviously, my weighting reflects that on this name. Okay. Matek. So, slowly but surely, a lot of you got bored of this one. And we're getting annoyed of this one during the consolidation, but slowly but surely, this thing is broken out of this little consolidative range that it was in between, 13 to 15 bucks, this little range that we lived in basically from March to May, which annoyed a lot of you because it would pop into 15, drop to 13, pop into 15, drop to 13. And chat was always bugging me, tagging me, what's wrong with MITK? Well, nothing's wrong with MITK now. This thing is broken out of the range and is now attempting to flip resistance into support. We'd like to see this name continue to defend the highs here at 1650. Really, ideally, we wanted to defend 1580 because that's more concrete in terms of being the top of this range. It's just sort of a blip out. But still, ideally, you defend the 16 spot. In terms of overall structure, you just need to defend 1580. Either way, this thing is moving beautifully now, breaking out again, multiple years of just sitting in this range down here, and now we're pushing out. And if you zoom out a little more, you can kind of see the potential we're talking about. So I expect this thing to trade in the 20s in short order. Now that we've broken past this mid 16s area, I maybe expect a little consolidation along the way, but I expect this thing to trade in the 20s in short order. And it's been quietly ticking up on these software strength days. It is making a move now again today. So um, yeah, looks pretty solid, and I'm happy it's finally breaking out for us and making new highs now as we move forward. So, all right, BlackBerry. So again, terrific. I mean, we just looked at this earlier. We got in here May 6th. The lows of this candle were 536. Stock consolidated for a little bit and then boom, 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 boom. And now we're up at nine. It's exactly what we were looking for. It broke out of the base we were looking for. Terrific. I mean, no notes. Just looks wonderful. I'd like to see it come up into this $12 range, ideally, if market momentum continues. I think the story's gaining momentum now behind this one. More and more people are talking about it. This was the first one in the last couple of weeks where we made the flow, which was funny because all the flow accounts were tweeting BlackBerry $6 calls for September, which was obviously us. Those calls are up 300% now. Um, for those of you that tailed me on them, let me see. Yep, 300.05% on those BlackBerry calls. So that's good to see. I'm still riding them. I think there's more room on this thing. So we'll continue to see it loop to the upside as we move forward. All right. Um, we'll take a look at RNG just because even though it's a very small position now because those options got cooked, I know a lot of people are still in it. I think the chart still looks great for what it's worth. It's defended this 50 day, pushing back above the 921 EMA today. I think the overall structure on this thing remains beautiful. I mean, again, you have this big base, multi-year base, tons of range on this thing. So I think this name continues to look good. It may be a name at some point that I upsize again and take another stab at. Obviously, those first round of calls that we had on this did not work into earnings because the earnings reaction was not good. But this may be a name I revisit in future as it sets up. Actually looks good today. But yeah, just wanted to touch on that because I know there's some of you that are in it that have been like tagging me in it and wondering what's going on with RNG. But that was just obviously an options lotto position that didn't work out. All right, Valence Semiconductor. This one's been cooking, just performing and acting really well too. I mean, you can see this climb up for us. We got in here at 157. Things been riding up the 9 EMA, a little bit of a blip here down to the 21 EMA. I remember this day, a lot of you got shaken out here on a very low volume sell into the 21 EMA. That should never happen. Just by principle, you should never be shaken out on a low volume pullback into the 21 EMA. That is like textbook stuff. And for those of you that have trouble getting shaken out of stocks or have trouble staying in stocks, please go to my stream library, watch the workshops on getting shaken out and holding through volatility. There's, I think, two of them. Please watch those workshops. I talk a lot about this, about not getting shaken out on the daily chart, tracking a chart on the weekly and monthly. I talk a lot about this on those workshops. Please watch those. If you're somebody that gets shaken out constantly of stocks that you're trying to swing trade, please, please, please watch those videos. That's what those videos are made for. They're made for people that struggle with uh, with those things. So please do that. Um, all right. Valence pushing up today, breaking. See the top of this range that we had, breaking that, defending 350 at the lows. Really looks terrific. This continues to be, I think, sort of developing now. When we bought it, our part of our thesis was the fact that this was just undervalued because trading at two times cash, other semiconductors are trading at insane valuations. I just felt like it was just undervalued and potential acquisition candidate. The technology set still looked promising to me considering they were running 62% gross margins. Um, and now these auto plays that were neglected are starting to work again, right? Like we have three of them in our portfolio. We have BlackBerry, banger, up more than 50% from where we bought it. Forget about 50%. I mean, we bought it at sub 550. It's almost $10. It's almost a double from where we bought it in just a couple of weeks on BlackBerry. Cerence, we've had two double-digit gap ups now. Um, and now this one, Valens, has more than doubled in a matter of, 3 weeks. So pretty good. This automotive thesis, this automotive flipping to AI thesis has been pretty timely for us. We've caught a lot of opportunities on this. And this is another one of those where the market is re-rating it based on the idea that the technology could be relevant in theory to the robotics industry. And obviously, this helped a lot that they were on the Birds of a Feather program with Samsung and MediaTek and Nvidia. That was good for business for them because that sells the narrative even more that they're in robotics. So yeah, Valence continues to cook. Again, no notes. I mean, I'm not going to complain about a chart that's building structure like this, holding the 9 EMA for the most part. This break over the 200 week on the weekly is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, you can see here 200 week moving average absolutely ripped through it. You would hope that there would have been some resistance here at 350. Nope, stock soared through it. And now we're talking about real range here, potentially into the fives and sixes and maybe even sevens. So this thing is on a run, continuing to ride it. Make some trims if you need to along the way, especially if you're up a lot. There's nothing wrong with that. But we are still riding this one. I think it is, like I said, has the potential to become the meme stock of the robotics trade in a lot of different ways. So. Yeah, VLN continues to act really well. All right, let's look at BLDP. So BLDP again, same thing. Parabolic structure here. I mean, we got in sub four on this thing and it's just been a monster. And, now it's 6+ already. We were thinking that might take a little while, but it's 6+ already now. The volume is huge on this side of the chart, if you can see, relative to the rest. And we're pushing up, right? You expect some resistance here at 710. This is the monthly chart. You'd expect some resistance here when we do get up here. But other than that, there's really not much in the way. You can see this weekly chart, a breakaway on massive volume. You're talking through that 710 spot, you're talking range to the nines. So this thing has been wonderful. You look at the daily, you'd like to see a little bit of consolidation here, maybe at least let the nine catch up would be nice. But it's not necessary. Parabolic stocks can act parabolic, so it's not necessary, but you'd like to see maybe at least the 9 EMA catch up here on this one. So BLDP acting terrific, continues to look great. Lumen, perfect structure, no violations here on any time frame. Continues to work for us. Um, Continues to have that data center angle working for the weekly. Looks great here. You can see potential break into the 12s on the table. Monthly as well, pushing into this 200-month moving average, making a second attempt. This one failed. Making a second attempt here now, that can be explosive. A break over the 200-month moving average can always be explosive. So if that happens, go straight to the 12s most likely. And then, you have 15, 16, 17 on your radar. The big thing about this name is they will have to show progress in resolving their debt situation throughout the year if we want this thing to make a bigger and bigger and bigger run. But, we're patiently waiting for that. And we have exposure for it. So Lumen looking good as well. Most of our names, as you go through them, are going to look pretty good, obviously, because they've been doing well. CXDO, up 53% on the month. Wow. Wowzers. Anyone who got in this one with us, if you're in the 7.5 calls with me still on this name, you must be up enormously because on those 7.5 calls, I'm up 330%. Even if you tailed me at a lower cost basis, you should be up 200+% on those. For those of you that followed me into the CXDO trade, obviously we got in down here, stock gapped up again. The next day after we did green again, and then we had earnings and another gap up on earnings. Um, Pretty rare for me to enter so close to earnings. I did that with this name. For those that remember, the last name I did that with was Viavi. Um, Last year, and then we got an earnings gap up. We got the same thing on this one. And this reminds me of that post earnings consolidation for Viavi where it's very high and tight. 9 EMA just continues to grind higher. I mean, this is really, really great post earnings consolidation. You can see almost no sellers here, right? So all things being equal, I think this is going much higher. And you can see when we zoom out again that we're talking about these multi-year bases that we're trying to attack, right? And you can see this one is a big one going back all the way to '09, right? If you really want to treat this all as one big range, you could talk about a break here into the 12s pretty quickly. And over 1265, you can see the 1265 peak here, 1261 peak here. Over 1265, I would expect this thing to be very explosive if it does get there and when it does get there. So I continue to really like CXDO as well, and we'll probably look to add size on that at some point. We'll see. Maybe even should do it uh, sooner than later, but we'll see. Anyway, what's next up? SHLS, that. So this one's been wonderful for us too. I mean, I keep saying this over and over again, but I mean, everything's been breaking out for us. So we got into this name. When did our alert go out on this? On the 15th. So about 2 weeks ago, our alert went on this. So on the 15th, somewhere around here, sub $9. Stock is now $12. As people run and rush into this name for their electric balance of power exposure. My calls are up over 115%. So if you tailed me on those, even again at a slightly lower cost basis, you should be doing very well on those Shoals calls as well. That thing's climbing, weighting in the portfolio pretty rapidly. Great candle today. You can see above the close of the last 2 days. I like that. Continues to work, continues to show relative strength. Even today, this morning, I think there were some solar names selling off, and it did not sell off with them. So that's always good to see. Um, okay, what are we looking at next? Let's look at ENS. Again, ENS, we're not going to spend too much time on, but yeah, just consolidating. Again, we're focused on these weekly charts with these longer term holds. Weekly and monthly charts look absolutely fine. No reason or trigger to sell ENS. Still, again, ton of thematic overlap with this name. Has the battery storage angle that we were looking for on the last earnings call, which had a great reaction. They talked a lot about the data center angle for them. So, yeah, this is not a name that I'm going to plan on moving off of anytime soon. So we continue to hold this with a pretty high amount of confidence. Remains the largest position in the power basket, obviously, but very deep cost-based advantage on this one now. IRDM, let's check this out. All right, IRDM acted beautifully this past week, ripped into the 50s, and now is acting really well up here in this range as well. Also, defending this $50 spot pretty well. Doesn't look too extended on any time frame, to be honest. Looks like, very, very healthy move to me. I expect to see this thing go higher, to be honest. It obviously will trade in sympathy to the SpaceX IPO and sentiment around that. So if you're not already long in this name, I don't know if it makes sense to chase this name or any space stocks. If you have space exposure here, great. You can kind of afford to see how the SpaceX IPO goes. But if you don't have space exposure going into it, I'm not sure I'd recommend getting it because I don't know how the SpaceX IPO is going to go. And if the SpaceX IPO goes badly, these space stocks will sell off hard. And so you have to understand that risk. Um, the charts look great on all of them, but charts don't prevent binary events. They don't prevent things from happening on binary events that can derail a stock. So you have to be mindful that the SpaceX IPO is going to be a binary event for these names. They were going to trade, they've been trading off sentiment. They will trade off sentiment coming out of that IPO. So be careful and be mindful about that with any space stocks you might own. I am holding IRDM and will be holding it through that period. But if you're holding this stock or some other space stock, be mindful that could um, change. Okay, the sentiment around that trade could change. All right, RDCM. This one's been a little bit of a slow mover for us, but I think the daily structure looks fine here. Weekly structure looks fine here. Just consolidating, pull back here into the 9 week EMA. Saved itself this week. Monthly looks great. So yeah, I'm just being patient with this one. I know it has not been an explosive mover for us, but I still like the story. Still think the valuation is very cheap. I think there will be some progress with the activists involved with this name. So I'm just waiting for that. The structure could spook me out in theory on this name. This is one of those names where I wouldn't just sit through a structural breakdown, but the structure is fine to me. Even this 9 EMA, 21 EMA forfeit, caught the 50-day, defending this 14 area very well, pushing back up into the 921. I don't have a problem with it. It's not bugging me. So we're staying in it. All right, BDC. It's probably one of our only actually bad performers. BDC just pinned under the daily still. The acquisition has not been digested well by the market, obviously. Weekly, same thing. Monthly, same thing. I want to upsize this name, but it's going to have to come into a spot that allows me to have confidence to do that. In other words, I'm going to need to see some momentum rebuild on the daily on this thing. So this is one of those stocks where I'd rather buy it higher than buy it here. I'd rather buy this stock above 110 than I would buy it at 105. I know that sounds counterintuitive to you. I've talked to a lot of you about this before. You're like, that doesn't make sense to me. Why would you want to buy it at 110 instead of 105? Because the structure would be better. And I prefer buying stocks when they can work for me right away. I don't want to sit around. I value opportunity costs. I don't want to sit around and be waiting for a stock to work for me. So I like BDC still. I actually think BDC is one of the most undervalued AI adjacent plays in the market. I continue to believe that. Unfortunately, this acquisition has been digested poorly, so I'm just going to wait for structure to improve. I think it will improve one day. I think there'll be a catalyst at some point that fixes that daily chart, and that's where I'll upsize it. So that's my thoughts on BDC. All right, OSS. Again, guys, we're just trying to do these rapidly because there's a lot of positions, and otherwise we'll just be doing chart reviews all day. And I do want to get to some questions. So, OSS, same thing, man. We had this massive 60% gap up on earnings for us. Obviously, we've been in this name since under $5. So this has been absolutely parabolic for us. We're at the $18 stock now, more than a triple for us. But it continues to act very well. I mean, this 60% earnings gap up, you would have think the stock would give some of that back. It didn't. It held the 9 EMA in this entire period of consolidation. I mean, that is very impressive. I think there's an institutional bidder here that's keeping this thing um, where it is because even though it's a small market cap, that 60% move to me was indicative that someone with a lot of money got interested in the stock following that earnings report. And now this 9 EMA has just been a crisp defense since then. So looks gorgeous to me and continues to look great and no plans to sell it. Again, I think these guys operate in a very, very unique niche of ruggedized compute. I don't think, we just had the server giants report yesterday, Dell, HP. I don't think these server giants, they're making tens of billions of dollars selling AI optimized servers. I don't think they have a care in the world about OSS dominating this niche, the ruggedized compute niche. I don't even think they give a shit. It's like a fly on the wall to them. Put $1 billion in business for OSS, or $2 billion in business for OSS, or $3 or $4 billion in business for OSS for a 400 million market cap is quite meaningful. And so they're attacking an opportunity set that could transform the value of the company. And that's to the effect of what they said on the last earnings call, which is why the stock went so crazy. So continue to love this name, acting very, very well for us. Okay, Adia. This one has been poopy lately. Came down off of the 30s and has just been acting poorly, getting rejected by the 921 EMAs. I really, really like the story on this one, like really like it. Unfortunately, the chart is not agreeing with the story right now. That's okay. That happens sometimes. I think on the monthly, it still looks okay. There could be a little bit more downside on this name. You could see it come down to the 24 area if it's unable to reclaim this weekly 9 EMA. That's what you should be watching for. So this weekly 9 EMA, you should be watching for a reclaim of that. If it can't do that, yeah, you could fall to the 23 to 24 area. And that's where I'd likely look to upsize it if that did happen. I would say around 2350 to 2450 is where you could fall. In theory, not for sure, but in theory. Obviously, a ripper in on some kind of catalyst would change that. So we'll see. That could happen. You never know. All right, CTS. Haven't looked at this one in a while. Yeah, I mean, just continues to work wonderfully. Not loud, quiet climber, but just doing these things where it's popping above local ranges, slow, low, boring sell back into the 9 or 21, and then moving higher. When you zoom out on this thing, you see the bigger structure we're looking at here, right? You see this massive all-time cup, right? That's what we're looking to attack here on this one. So, I continue to remain long on this. Not a huge weighting for us, of course, but a name that I think continues to look interesting both technically and obviously thematically. It's one of our robotics exposures, and robotics has been doing very well. So, all right, LEU. Again, this is where our focus remains on LEU. I almost never look at the daily chart on this thing, but the monthly continues to work, continues to build. It has not been an easy stock to hold. That's no question about it. For those of you, especially that bought much higher than I did, I bought at 96. Some of you bought at 200, 300. Some of you bought at 150, whatever. If you bought higher, it has been hard to hold, no doubt about it. Now, still, this moving average pinch is developing, as you can see here, right? Defense of the 21-month EMA. You have this 200-month overhead, and they're getting closer and closer to each other, right? Every day of consolidation that passes, this 200-month gets closer to this rising 9-month EMA. And so we'll see what happens, but I think it's going to produce that lovely moving average pinch at some point, and I think the move will be pretty explosive. So I remain long on this. Obviously, again, at a 96 cost basis, that remains easier for me to do than those of you that have a higher cost basis. I get it. If you've been trying to attack this stock and it's been annoying you, I totally understand that. Especially if you're buying it at these prices, that can be tricky because it's a very, very volatile name. But I remain long because I continue to love that monthly structure and I continue to love the story as well, obviously. All right, Nebius. So Nebius been terrific lately. Leopold's long on it now. He made it a pretty big portion of his portfolio. He bought 5.6% of the company, which means it's a huge position in his portfolio. I think it might be the biggest position in his portfolio based on that. Obviously, we don't know for sure because 13F filings are delayed, but it is one of the biggest positions in his portfolio now because he bought 5.6% of the whole company. So, yeah, Nebius is been terrific for us. It's more what not more than a 10x, but basically a 10x for us now. We bought a 23.92 last May. It's been a year, 10x in a year, not bad. 10 bagger on equity in a year, not too shabby, right? I mean, 1 year ago we bought down here, or no, maybe a bit more than 1 year ago technically because I wasn't even there. 1.5 years ago. Well, a little less than 1 year ago, down here in May, beginning of May, is where we bought, and it has just been a hell of a ride since. I mean, this kind of gives you a perspective, guys. You should really look at this because this gives you a perspective on what it takes to get to a 10 bagger. Okay? Like, we should spend some time on this here. We bought over here, right? In the low 20s, okay? Look what we had to sit through. Yeah, the stock ran pretty soon after we bought it to the 40s. That was great and that helped. But look at all the pullbacks along the way and the breakdowns. I mean, look at this period of action from October of last year to March of this year, right? Holding through this from the stock going to 140 back down to 70, getting cut in half, right? Holding through that. How are you going to hold through this with any technical rule book? You're not. Right? And so this is where our other pillars of analysis come in, the thematic analysis, the fundamental analysis, to have the confidence, right? I had the confidence through this entire thing to say, I'm not selling my shares. And it paid off, right? Now we're trading much, much, much higher than we were in this range. Um, but the only way you'll ever get 10 baggers, 5 baggers, any kind of baggers, 20 baggers, is being able to hold through all of this type of action. This 8 months action, this 3 months down here, the rally up to 76, fall back to 63, the rally up to 41, the fall back to 35, the rally up to 55, the fall back to 43. Like, you have to hold through all of that to get to the final destination. Well, we're not at the final destination yet because we're still not selling, or I'm not still not selling, but to get to 10 bagger status, which is what we're basically at with this name and now 9 bagger basically, but we're pretty close to it being 10x. To get there, you have to sit through all this. So go back and study charts like this, like Nebius, and ask yourself, what should I expect along the way of a stock becoming a multi-bagger? Because it takes a long time and it takes a lot of volatility to sit through. So you can't just expect a stock to go up, up, up and away, right? Nebius didn't go from 23 in a straight line up to 221 for us. We had to sit through all of this nonsense for months. While people were saying, oh, it's out of favor. You guys remember the comments when it was falling down here to 70? Not just in our chat, but on Twitter. People were like, dude, Nebius sucks. It's not even participating in this rally. Right? Now it's one of the market leading stocks in just a matter of months. So there's nothing like price to change sentiment, but you have to be able to sit through these things. It's part of the game. You have to be able to sit through these things. Please, please remember that. And go back and study these charts, like I said, on parabolic stocks like this that have 10x, especially if we've been in them. And go look where I entered, why I entered, what it took to hold, why I held. Pay attention to those things. And you can go back through my journal and look at all the Nebius posts over the last year, and you can see my conviction get reiterated and reiterated and reiterated, right? And so it's important. It's very important. I'm emphasizing it because I don't, so many of you act like you're losing your fucking minds every time a stock is volatile. Like anytime a stock is red, half the chat is Why is this stock red? And meanwhile, I have like 30 other stocks that are green. And that's the kind of questions I get because that's just childish behavior and childish view on price action. Like, you should understand that there's no stock in the history of humanity that became a multi-bagger without an enormous amount of volatility. Period. Like, laser that into your brain. Volatility is part of the game. Period. Anyway, VPG, fantastic, right? I mean, what can I say about this thing? We got in 53. I don't know where the exact entry was. Let's go check the thesis library. Yeah, on the 22nd of April. So around here, that's where we got in. And I mean, wow, right? Stock was quickly in the 60s for us within a matter of a week. And then earnings came, and this thing was off to the races and has now become, I think, the leading robotic small cap stock. And I think it will be for the remainder of the cycle because they have very, very close relationships to almost all the humanoid robotics manufacturers. They said they're working with four. The speculation is that Figure and Tesla are included in that. Obviously, we don't know for certain because they haven't named them. But if that is true, and if that ever does get confirmed, this stock will go even more parabolic. It already has. They made a lot of commentary on around robotics and their sensor division last quarter. I think they did the best job. There's quite a few other sensor companies, ALNT and others, but I think they did the best job of selling the vision of them being a robotics players. I think they did the best job of that. And so I think this will continue to be the robotics leader when it comes to robotic stocks going forward. I think this will continue to be the small cap robotics leaders. I'm planning on exercising those calls I have when they come up for expiration. So the weighting on this will go way up from where it is now. The weighting will go way up. So be mindful of that. Again, I'm not going to buy more at these prices, but I will buy more at my options contract prices, which will give me the stock at 55 or $60. So, um, yeah, just heads up on that. The weighting on VPG will go up whenever those contracts come up for expiration. Okay, let's look at AMRC. There's a recent one for us. Had a nice gap after we bought it, consolidating now. Not much to say about this. Breaking over the 200 week, which is great to see. Poking its head above, going to close above. We don't want to see this happen again, but good start. Nothing to complain about on this one. Not yet. Obviously, a very new position for us. So we're just allowing structure to develop. Again, we have this 200 consolidation above the 200-day with the 921 poking through. We've seen that on a number of names that we've looked at recently. This one doing the same thing. So yeah, working nicely. We're allowing it to continue to develop. All right, Amcor. Hey. Amcor, a little bit of a breakdown here on the daily, but not a big deal. Again, we flipped to this weekly chart. That's where we get rid of a lot of noise when we flip to these weekly charts, and you can see beautiful structure. Obviously, this stock is not one that we're worried about. We own it 3 times lower than the current price. So this kind of falls in the basket. Viavi, ENS, Amcor, you're not going to hear much concern from my voice about any of those because we own them so much lower. They're acting how they need to act. If they want to spend a few weeks consolidating, so be it. We have other stocks that are working, right? So it's one of those names we're just taking a little bit of a breather. Not worried about it at all. All right, GDYN, they had a negative note from Jefferies today, a downgrade or something. I don't know. The stock didn't do much on it. I thought it was a pretty lazy note from Jefferies, just like a pretty lazy generic note. I don't really think they made any good points, but daily structure you can see is building like beautifully out of a textbook. Gorgeous structure here. The reclaims of the moving averages are like perfect. You can see this slanted line in the defense here. I mean, just gorgeous. So working really nicely on the daily and the weekly, building structure. Again, not really worried about this one. Um, just letting it develop. Would love to see this name above 785 in short order so that the monthly can gain some traction as well. And this is the only time frame where we're not seeing traction. But on the daily and weekly, we are seeing uh, some nice traction on this name. Okie dokie. PLPC. Another one where like nothing to worry about. Doesn't ever break structure. This thing's like an animal. Just keeps going up. Um, Not much to say about the chart. Just keeps going up. Again, this one's getting closer to my sort of max valuation range. So I'm not as excited about it fundamentally anymore, but it's a hell of a chart and it continues to climb. And, it's part of the reason why I'm long. If this chart wasn't acting well, I probably wouldn't be long still, because again, we got it like sub 200. Um, but because it's acting so well is one of the only reasons I'm still in it. Um, and so I'm just allowing it to play out. It seems very tightly held, and so that was part of our original thesis and continuing to wait it out until structure breaks, and structure is certainly not broken on this name on any time frame. All right, AMSC, CINA, and HII are the last ones. So AMSC, they had an earnings report. I thought it was a good earnings report. Stock was down yesterday, obviously a little bit on it, down again today, but I'm not really worried about it. I'll allow daily structure to resolve itself. Weekly structure looks fine. Um, in this kind of market, I'm just not allowing myself to be shaken out by daily structure at all. So just paying attention to this weekly and monthly structure. You can see on the monthly structure, it still looks really quite beautiful. This is beautiful, right? You're gonna see it defend here and then be off to the races again. So not worried about this name. I liked the report. I think the valuation is pretty reasonable for what they're doing. I thought there was a lot of excitement around the AI and data center opportunity for them um, on the earnings report. So continue to like this name a lot and probably continue to stay long. Maybe upsize it at some point if it comes back down to the 50-day. We'll see. Synaptics, gorgeous. Our other core position in robotics, obviously gave us a headache for many months. This name, at the start of the year, we bought it in the 80s, fell down to the 60s, now recovered and is obviously a leading robotics name now. This and VPG are my two robotics core positions, as you guys know. So we'll continue to ride these ones. No plans on selling either. I think the robotics theme is just getting started. I think we're very, very early to this theme. And I think we have two very real plays. Synaptics and VPG have both, they're not speculated to be working with humanoid manufacturers. Both companies, both Vishay Precision Group and Synaptics, have explicitly said that they are working with humanoid manufacturers. So that's the difference between these guys and a lot of other stocks out there where people are speculating that they might be robotic stocks or speculating that they might be related to humanoids. We know for sure our two core positions, VPG and Synaptics, are both related to robotics and especially to humanoid robotics. So terrific. Synaptics acting great on the daily. Obviously looks great on the weekly as well and the monthly. Just a beast of a stock, especially recently. And you can see breaking out of this longer term area. Once we get over 150, this thing can really run away. So that's the spot I'd be looking for, a 154, 155 break on this thing to potentially send it much, much higher. Um, okay, last name HII. This one's been, again, a drag like most of the defense names. Chart looks not great on the daily there or on the weekly. Um, Probably headed for more downside based on how this looks. Uh, Monthly, some saving grace here at 300, but probably one of the worst looking names, technically speaking, in the book currently. So uh, wouldn't be surprised to see more downside there on HII. Okie dokie, that covers everything in terms of our open positions. See here. See what the questions look like. I'm not going to answer any questions that I don't think are good questions. How would you advise new people coming into your group which stocks I recommend they start buying? This is a very common question. I'm going to answer it on stream here. I do not recommend anything. I tell you what I do, and you decide what you want to do based on that. That's it. Pretty simple service. That's what we sell here. We sell access to my decision making and our analyst decision making. And then you look at the decisions we're making and you decide, do I want to make that decision? That's up to you, not me. I'm never going to individually coach you guys on what you should be buying and selling in your own portfolio. I don't know what your portfolios look like. I don't know what your financial goals are. I don't know what your availability of capital is. I don't know those things. And so I can't manage your portfolio for you. I want to add options to many of your picks, but the IV is high. Yes, same problem I'm having. So, yes, I understand the pain there. Um, can I break the rules sometimes? Yes, I can break the rules sometimes. But once it starts getting to 120, 130, 140% IV, I'm very unlikely to try to do that. And there are a couple names that I've wanted upsize the last couple weeks, and I've gone and looked at the chains, and the IV is just too high for me to want to do it. So I have to find other ways to do that. Maybe with shares. Right now, buying power is a little bit tight to do that. So yeah. What made me choose VPG over RRX? I like RRX, but VPG was much more explicit about their humanoid exposure. When it comes to questions like this, guys, you can just go read the VPG thesis. So three limo, go read the VPG thesis. I made it very explicit why I picked VPG at that time. They had real traction in real humanoid robotics orders. They had 4% of sensor revenue dedicated to humanoid robotics orders. RRX or any other humanoid related plays did not have that. That's real traction, real orders, real percentage of revenue. You go back and read the VPG thesis in the thesis library. That'll explain the answer to your question. Is there an allocation percentage that would be too high for you to not trim? In theory, yeah, but there have been points where a stock made up 30% of my portfolio. Um, it just depends on my conviction level. So in theory, yeah, I ideally wouldn't want to go over 25% weighting in any individual name. But it's happened before. So, I don't never say never, I guess. It just depends on the context, depends on the conviction level. Is Viavi an ad? Not for me. It might be for you, but I have all the shares I need at my cost basis. Um, I buy stocks when they're based out, not when they're ripping. I never listened to an earnings call before joining your Discord 5 months ago. It seems like pretty much every call I listen to is super bullish. That's not true at all. My question for you, do you find earnings calls recently extra bullish? No. Are they always pretty bullish? No. You haven't listened to enough earnings calls. How do you go from identifying a theme or reading something that sparks an idea to actually finding investable stocks within that theme? That's a crazy question that would take me 2 hours to answer. Watch the stream libraries. Um, I explain my process. How do I go from identifying a theme to identifying a stock? That's the whole game. I mean, I could sit here for 4 hours and talk about that. Way too broad of a question. Go to the stream library, watch my 15-point checklist workshop. 15-point checklist is what it's called. Watch that workshop. That'll get you started. How do you trim your positions? Do you have a separate strategy for commons and options? No. I don't have a trimming strategy like all other technical setup traders out there. Trim at 10%, set a trailing stop loss. I don't do any of that stuff. Um, I trim or sell stocks when the thesis is breaking or weakening. That's it, period. And that depends from position to position what the thesis breaking or weakening might mean. SATS looks interesting from a technical perspective. What the fuck? Hold on, I just skipped that. Oh, what the hell happened here? There's so many questions. Sorry, I got lost. Um, SATS looks interesting to space example. Would you agree? I don't know. Let's see. All the space stocks look good. So no, this doesn't look like particularly good. I mean, it looks good. All the space stocks look good. If you're buying a space stock into SpaceX IPO, you're just taking binary risk. You might as well buy SpaceX. If SpaceX goes up, space stocks will go up. If SpaceX goes down, space stocks will go down. Pretty simple. With 5N, despite their AI-based revenue growing the fastest part of any business, do you see companies like Amazon or Microsoft as a threat, competitor to their business? I mean, in theory, sure, but again, that's overthinking. You're looking at a $1.5 billion company trading at single-digit free cash flow multiple that has an opportunity to benefit from automating call centers. Customer service growth is growing faster than the overall job market for the first time in history. I shared that image in the original 5N thesis. That's the 5N thesis. Go back and read it. If I bought stocks and initially calls are doing very good on FIVN, is it okay to sell shares? That's up to you, man. I don't coach you guys on like, is it okay to sell your shares or is it okay to take profit? Go for it. I mean, if you want to take profit, take profit. Um, is it okay to sell my shares? Just an odd question. I don't know. I don't know what your financial goals are. I don't know how big your account is. I don't know if you need the capital. I don't know if you're on margin. I don't know the answers to all these questions. So I can't answer that kind of stuff, guys. I already covered BDC. Which market calendar events do you keep in mind in relation to managing portfolio? I'm not, none really. I mean, the Fed decisions, I guess. I pay attention to when those are. That's pretty much it. And CPI data releases. CPI data releases and Fed decisions. That's basically it. Why did I invest in BB even though it's really expensive on a valuation basis? Well, go read my thesis. I explained that. I believe their QNX platform is very undervalued. Do future taxes play a role in your managing? No. What stock has surprised you the most in your career? I don't know. I'd have to think about that. What was that Pana water you were drinking? It's Aquapana. It's good water. Can you talk a bit about what you liked and disliked on the AMSC and P call? I mean, sure. I mean, I liked the AMSC call's enthusiasm. I liked the tone of the voice of the CEO. I liked that he was addressing their opportunity um, in power. And on the P call, I did not like how they were navigating around memory prices and failing to explain why companies like NetApp, for example, which is up 40% today, had great quarter and were able to manage their memory inputs and P wasn't. So that was basically the decision there. Um, AD up, please. I already went over that. Sorry in advance if it's already an asked question, but trying to learn more on how to manage options. Do you have a certain time frame from your date of expiration where you factor time decay? No, I don't. I don't. I never exercise early, and if I do exercise, it's always at the date of expiration. There's no point in exercising early ever. You should never ever exercise an option early. It makes no sense. Why would you put up that capital early? It's like asking somebody, yeah, it just makes no sense. You never exercise early. I didn't look at API, sorry. I'll look at it maybe this weekend. Have you seen GDYN acquisition last week? Um, no, I didn't see it. I didn't know they made an acquisition. Did you cut the RNG calls or letting them burn? I'm just letting them burn. What do you think of the NBIS calls at these level? Uh, it's up to you. I'm not buying them, so that should make you let you know what I think of them. Why did you upsize 80 at 24 but not upsize BDC at 100? So wondering what else you were seeing. Um, it's just a different story. It's a different dynamic. One needs the market to relate it to AI. The other one's already related to AI. It's a little bit of a different dynamic. Adia and Cena is so similar in sentiment on the fact alone that I can't bring myself to sell it. Is the BDC pattern of approaching the monthly to you TA relevant? Yeah, you can be a bottom fisher and say, look, the stock's coming into the 50-month SMA, so I'm going to buy it. I prefer to see some strength on the chart before I make that decision. So there's some people who are like bottom fishers who say, hey, stock's coming into the 200 week or the 50-month or whatever, I'm going to buy it. There's other people who say, no, I want to see the sentiment improve before I do that. And I want to see the stock reclaim some moving averages before I do that. I'm more of the latter. I don't really have a big sophisticated view on quantum. I'm taking my cues from the market. The market is starting to believe more in it. That's what matters. I don't have some complicated, intense view on my opinion on the technology. All right, I'm just gonna start skipping some of these dumb questions. Do you plan to sell or reduce? You'll know when I sell or reduce anything or add anything in my journal. How much research do you do a day? A lot. I read all day about stocks, so a lot. During the week, like 4+ hours of research, 5+ hours every day. Did your HII thesis update a little bit? No. I mean, I'm a little less confident in it because of the pivot away from shipbuilding to newer technologies, but um, I'm dissatisfied with the price action, certainly. If you had more cash available, which equities would you upsize? I'm not going to tell you that in advance. You just front run me. I just joined yesterday. I want to understand how to best navigate. I'm spending time to understand how you structure the Discord channel. Yeah, brother Nick, there's an instructions channel exactly for what you're asking. I'm new here. First day, thoughts on the potential summer slump drawdown that Tom Lee thinks we'll get with a new Fed chair. I don't predict things like that. Tom Lee is a fucking idiot. Tom Lee is literally an idiot. Um, if you take any advice from Tom Lee, you've lost your mind. The dude is just a perma bull marketer on Twitter, very similar to Dan Ives, who I think is a nice guy, but also not very intelligent. Um, I'm skipping these. Some insane questions here. Uh, trying to find a good question. No interest in P-Lab, no. I sold it for a reason. What's your plan for the portfolio if the market declines? I've gone over this many times. I reduce options exposure, then I reduce overall equity exposure, then I eventually get short. That's how it works. As the market breaks down, I de-lever exposure. I sell into weakness. Which new themes am I looking at for second half of 26? The same themes, but there may be new names. You can play devil's advocate yourself. You don't need me to play devil's advocate. I use margin based on the availability of opportunity. Aside from Druckenmiller, which other investors have you learned the most from? Peter Lynch. If I were to do this stock ride from noob to goat all over again, what would I do differently? Um, I would start by swing trading and investing from the very beginning rather than taking 6, 7 years to figure that out. Any important factors to think about when entering options plays with relatively larger portfolios? I don't understand that question. Can a prolonged bull market gradually change a person's risk appetite and trading strategy? Yes. Yes, it can, and you need to be careful of that. How defensible is Amcor's position in advanced packaging versus competitors once AI chip demand normalizes? I don't think it's going to normalize anytime soon, so that's not on my radar. But what's their position? They're an OSAT, right? So they're outsourced assembly and testing. They're outsourced assembly and testing. So um, they don't have the internal packaging expertise that um, fabs have for their newest chips. They don't have that. So that's important to keep in mind. They're a third party packager. The thesis around Amkor is that there's so much packaging demand with new advanced AI chips that I don't think their demand will normalize. I think it'll go up a lot. I'm fairly new to the markets and trying to understand how exceptional this so-called AI trade is really compared to other moments. I've never seen a trend as powerful as this in the 15 years that I've been doing it. This is the most powerful opportunity, at least of my career. Sympathy beaten down plays always interest me. Thoughts on MVIS' sympathy to OUSD? I haven't looked enough at MVIS. FLNC, I can look at the chart for that if you want me to. I have looked at this name in the past before. Yeah, nice setup here. Very nice setup. The weekly is a bit noisy. Ugh, looks like a headache. Yeah, I mean, it has a nice daily setup, but this weekly looks like a headache. I mean, when it eventually breaks out of this range, it'll probably be explosive. I don't know if I want to deal with that weekly chart though. This thing has a history of just running and then getting dumped on, but this is a nice entry if you are looking at it. How did your trading style change once you crossed when you're into trading? Once my portfolio was above 500K, what measures would you suggest to grow? I mean, my style mostly changed, not from a product of my portfolio getting bigger, but my realizations about what was making me the most money. Once I started realizing that swing trading and long-term investing were making me the biggest dollar gains, that's when I started pivoting to that. It was not necessarily about portfolio size, although I do think that that way of approaching things is a better strategy for larger portfolios. I wouldn't consider, no offense to you though, I wouldn't consider 500K a large portfolio though. Like once you're dealing with millions, then this size factors come into play. Um, and then you have to start thinking about how you can leverage your opportunity more effectively to grow your portfolio because you need to make big gains in order to move a multi-million dollar portfolio. For someone like me who's 100% cash and not willing to go into margin, what is your recommended strategy for moving money around when you learn a new stock? I don't know, brother. I don't know what your portfolio looks like. So I couldn't advise you on that. Favorite track on Iceman? Probably ran to Atlanta. Thoughts on optics weakness, rotation lately, Leopold selling momentum and recent bad cyber earnings can be a cause. Um, no, just that's been a parabolic trade. It needs to cool off. Who's worth following on X besides the team here? I like Za. I like a couple of the options flow guys. I think they're worth following. T Lamb is great. Um, that's pretty much it. Like, I think most of X is absolutely garbage. Very serious question. Can we see Leo? Yeah, I already showed Leo earlier, but here he is again. He's sleeping. Or no, he's not sleeping anymore. Hello, Leo. Hello. Tired? Okay, there he is. Um, who's worth do you consider correlations between stocks in your portfolio from a risk management standpoint? Blah blah blah. Okay, no. Look at tear it down at all. Just be more of the structure of the Discord. No, all of our analysts are not, they're not full-time employees. All the analysts are, they're here as either guest analysts or part-time analysts. They share what they want to share. They're not obligated to share what I share. So that's the structure. Mystic can share whatever he wants to share. Yonezu can share whatever he wants to share whenever he wants to share. Wall Street Engine, same thing. Some of them share all of their positions. Some of them don't. I do, but that doesn't mean that all of our analysts do or have to or will. So, all right, that's it for questions because I got to get the portfolio update posted. I probably won't even get it posted before close now because we ran this a little bit too long. Um, but that's that. Hopefully that was helpful somewhat with going through the charts. We've got to get better at the questions though, guys. Questions are really lazy for the most part. Okay, we'll see you guys next week for another one of these streams. I don't know what day it's going to be. I never know what day it's going to be. Could be Wednesday, could be Monday, could be Friday, but we'll look into it. Very good day, very good week. Portfolio keeps humming along, so I don't have any complaints, certainly. We'll see how next week goes. Obviously, we don't want the war to restart or anything over the weekend. That won't be great for stocks. But in the meanwhile, our names are doing pretty well. Obviously, a little bit of a rest day today for a lot of names, but that's okay. That's part of the game. And we will see you guys next week and see what happens. Keep an eye on those weekly charts. Don't get shaken out by the daily charts, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, love you guys. Take it easy.